Okay, we are live. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Crypto Hour. Today is Friday, the 26th of July. And as we said last week, today we have Jonathan that will do a session on, demonstration session on Cardano. Let me just cover a couple of things before, while we wait for Jonathan to connect. Okay, the big news of this week is that we have the launch of the Ethereum ETFs. They are now open and available for trading. So if you want, you can, you can buy Ethereum ETF the same as Bitcoin ETFs. They've been available for a few months now. So let's have a look straight away at what the effect has been. I must say the underwhelming effect so far of the launch of the ETFs. So let me just go and share my screen. Okay, so this is Bitcoin, but let's go on to the Ethereum ETFs on a daily chart. As you can see, the reason there hasn't been great I would say market reaction to the introduction of the ETFs. So they were launched on Tuesday. So the price has actually gone down since Tuesday of Ethereum from 3,004. The moment we're about 3,002. But let's have a look at what happened on CoinGlass actually that reports the inflows. First of all, it's the same sort of pattern that we saw with the Bitcoin ETF. Sorry, just a second. I think Jonathan has a problem with the Zoom. Let me just send in the sorry, let me just stop sharing and I'll need to send in the link. Okay. Okay, link sent. So Jonathan should be appearing in a second. Let me just share the screen again. So wasn't that we're after? Okay, so I was saying the same picture that we saw with the Bitcoin ETF. So we got the first one is the Grayscale ETF that was already existing. So it's not a new one, but all the other ones are new. So we can see all green numbers on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 ETFs and red numbers on one. At the moment, the Grayscale ETF outflows have been more than the inflows. So actually, the total effect of the opening on these ETFs has been an outflow of 179 million from Ethereum. Okay, so this is why the price has come down. But as with Bitcoin, we'll have to wait for a little bit to digest. As you can see, the amount of money that's coming out of the Ethereum ETF, the Grayscale ETF, are quite substantial. So 1.1 billion, and the other 8 are come to just short of 1 billion. So there have been money coming into Ethereum ETFs, but not enough to create a big price difference. Though that would need to be digested. And if you look at the Bitcoin, the Bitcoin ETFs funds keep flowing in, and again the Grayscale ETFs funds keep flowing out. So you can see this number becomes smaller and smaller. It started at 600 and I think it was 625,000 Bitcoin. Now they've down to 271. and they're now in second place, and Fidelity is quickly catching up as well. So eventually, I mean, I don't know when it would stabilize, but probably Grayscale will end up maybe in third place in terms of Bitcoin ETFs. The other big thing before I pass the baton to Jonathan, a couple of things just that I want to show you. First of all, Japan is getting ready as well to launch Bitcoin ETF. So it hasn't had regulatory approval, but the big companies that are going to offer these ETFs, they're already working behind the scenes. So that would be, I don't know exactly when it will be approved and if it will be approved, but it should be in the next few months. And Japan is another big market in terms of savings. So Japan has got like a real mentality of saving first. So Bitcoin will be a good product for the Japanese market as well to invest in. So that's the other thing. And the other big thing that has caused, very quickly, I'll show you the Bitcoin price recently. So you can see, we're going like a smaller time frame. So you can see from yesterday, we've gone from 63.5 to where we are now around 67. And this is a temporary effect because you might have heard that there is a US election on the cards, as being fought tooth and nail, and Donald Trump has positioned himself as the white knight for crypto, and is speaking this weekend at Bitcoin conference. So obviously, traders are very nervous about being bearish on Bitcoin, because if, as it is, it has been leaked already, and we can see here, if Trump announced a strategic reserve, so he's talking about having Bitcoin as an asset that can be used to keep the country's reserves, same as bonds, foreign currencies, gold, etc., etc. So if that was announced and was actually official, then that would cause a boost for Bitcoin. I mean, nobody says that this will happen, because it needs to be seen if Trump, first of all, wins the election, if he wins the election, if he keeps his word, and so on. So there are lots of ifs and buts, but obviously something like this will bring a lot of attention to Bitcoin, and would probably, so we never know, but would probably cause a push higher of the price. Okay, so this is why we've had all of a sudden a reprice on a Bitcoin now to the kind of like higher end of recent price fluctuation. Can you see here? So we are now back into this the top 10% really. Can you see that? So we're back now into that arena. And an announcement by Trump, it could even cause price to spike and create a new high. I mean, we don't know, but what a lot of people are nervous about, obviously, if you invest in Bitcoin from an institutional level, like in ETFs, for example, the ETF market is closed on weekends. Okay, so nobody wants to be caught with their pants down. Okay, so where you are bearish, you are selling an asset that then immediately, when you can't do anything about it, increases sharply in price. So this has been the reason for this recent price readjustment. And then we'll see what happens at the weekend. Maybe nothing will happen, and then price will do what price does, or there might be like a lot of attention brought to Bitcoin that will cause a spike in price. Anything may happen, but we'll see what's the result of this. So at the moment, so this has been a very brief update, because today we had Jonathan that will show us, as we said last week, both Jonathan and I were busy with graduations, I think, last week. So we had something more important really to do, although I still managed to do a session from Airbnb. But this week we're going to demonstrate how you do a few things on chain, okay, as opposed to using central exchanges and other things like this. So Jonathan, I remember to everybody that doesn't already know him, I mean, you all know Jonathan by now, but Jonathan is a Cardano stake pool operator. So today we concentrate on Cardano, and Jonathan, the button is yours now. Take it away.
Thank you, Luca. So yeah, I thought we could look at DeFi on Cardano, as I know that most people sort of get into crypto through centralized exchanges. As soon as you're in there, if you really want to explore the revolution that will happen with the arrival of DeFi to the masses, then you can use Cardano's DeFi ecosystem now to really explore all the reaches of it, and how you can operate as you would if you were a bank, really, but suddenly you're in full control of everything. So there's a couple of things that are well worth getting your head around within the ecosystem. First off, there's an equivalent basically for everything you do in a centralized way, in a decentralized way, and that's what DeFi is all about. It's about switching your mindset from being, okay, I'm going to this company and I'm paying for their services or I'm using their services, and then I will, subscribe to some package, or pay fees towards them as individuals. It moves from that single entity operating with mindset into, I'm now operating with a network of multiple individuals, multiple services, multiple apps, and the whole ecosystem can really be seen as one giant computer program. And that's what a blockchain, in fact, really is. Whereas with a centralized exchange, you've got individual companies running their own database with a full blockchain-based decentralized ecosystem. You've got them running the database as their blockchain is the database that they tap everything into, and that database is public, so everybody can read from it, and it's fully open. There's nothing hidden within Cardano, and you can get write access to portions of the blockchain that you control. So that would be your wallet, typically, is what you'd think of. So if you can get your head around that, then you start to think, okay, what might I want to do? If I'm into centralized exchanges, that's how I normally operate. I would send money from my bank into a centralized exchange, and then I can use that centralized exchange to swap my money, my dollars, Aussie dollars, my British pounds, into a cryptocurrency. And with Cardano, you can actually directly send your money into the blockchain as well from your bank account. But the cheapest way to do it still is through a centralized exchange first, and then from your centralized exchange over into DeFi space. So the best way I find, so yeah, I can really only speak from a UK perspective because that's where I do all my work. But the best platform at the moment is to use Kraken, which is a US-based exchange. So again, there's a big gap in the market in DeFi. There are lots of opportunities for British companies and national companies to get involved. But at the moment, Kraken's worked best for me, cheapest fees. So I'll send my money from my HSBC bank account into Kraken, and then from Kraken, you can send your money into the Cardano blockchain without any high expense at all. Very, very cheap fees. Really, you're just paying the transaction fees of the blockchain, which are very small. At the moment, a typical transaction costs you about 0.17 ADA, which is about 8p, something like that. And then you're obviously looking for a marketplace where you can go and investigate what cryptocurrencies are available. Every blockchain has a different set of cryptocurrencies underneath it. There's ones you'll be familiar with, like Ethereum and Bitcoin. And then there are lots of native tokens that are much smaller in terms of market cap, but are also available within Cardano. And then there are also very specific coins just within Cardano that you can look at.
Sorry,
So
Jonathan, can I just interrupt you for a second? Can
please
you
do.
move the gallery from your screen because I can see right in the middle of the screen.
Oh,
I'll minimize it or just move it to the side, yeah.
how's that?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Can you see I always wondered if can you see the zoom tool as well, or is that just me? Because
Yeah, we can see the zoom thing as well, yeah.
I can't move them over onto a second screen. Very annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're always in the way somehow. Uh, so in the marketplaces of Cardano, you can come and investigate all the tokens, get an idea of their price and their valuations, and so Tap Tools is the best marketplace on Cardano at the moment for looking at that. It's got all the native tokens within Cardano and lots of the other tokens that have either got representations on the Cardano blockchain that you might be familiar with, like Ethereum, Bitcoin, so on and so forth. So if we look down just the homepage of taptools.io, we can see lots of different tokens, and they're ordered at the moment by their activity in the last moment of time. So I'm going to switch it to look at or sort of by market cap. So that's how much of the token exists in dollar value on chain. And if we look here in this MCAP, I don't know if it's going to be too small to see. We look in this MCAP column. We've got AGIX token at the top. So AGIX is a artificial intelligence token. The company behind it is SingularityNet, and it's run by Ben Goertzel, who wears a cowboy hat all the time. Well, not a cowboy hat, it looks more like an Australian hat. Interesting guy. But he has created an artificial intelligence-based token to fund the ecosystem of his artificial intelligence project. It's open source. There's a lot of move in the AI community to create open source alternatives to the closed source AI performers at the moment. So the ones you're probably aware of and maybe using already, like OpenAI and Gemini from Google, Bard from Microsoft. These are all centralized. And so the equivalent again in the DeFi space is to have a decentralized version, which isn't controlled by a single entity, but is open and available for everyone to use. And so AGIX is one of those. So if we look at it, it's got a market cap here of 343 million dollars worth of tokens on the Cardano blockchain. So that is an important metric to be aware of when you're looking at tokens, because the higher volume, the higher dollar value stored on chain, the less likely it is to disappear or for there to be a catastrophic crash in price that will just leave you wiped out. Doesn't mean you're entirely isolated from that risk, because anybody can have an issue with technology, or if they've got bugs in their code, then that can cause an issue. But here we have AGIX at top. Second is WMT, which is World Mobile Token. Not sure if you've heard of that, but World Mobile Token is a mobile network, an internet backbone, and a sort of communications provider for. They started in where did they start? Is it Tanzania? I can't remember where they started now, but they've spread around a few countries in Africa. They've even got some technology installations in the United States, and really they're looking to connect those areas of the world that are struggling to get decent connections to the traditional broadband spectrum. And they do it by launching helium balloons and attach the telecoms equipment to those. And that relays communications far further than a traditional aerial would, because you've got obviously a much greater line of sight. They can also mount Starlink satellite dishes to those aerostats and connect people through Starlink satellite down to nodes on the ground as well. And again, their second largest market cap on Cardano at the moment with 122 million. So just looking at those two tokens, they're fully native to Cardano. They are AGX actually started on Ethereum, moved over to Cardano, and now they're looking to move into another blockchain again as well with their merger to an ASI token. But there's lots of technology, lots of utility behind these tokens that gives them an advantage over your traditional, buy it because it's going to go up in value approach. And that's really what Luca and I particularly like to see in tokens, are that they have some utility, they have some fundamental good metrics in terms of liquidity and number of people using them, and then they also are available freely for open distribution. So if you decide, okay, I want to get hold of some WMT, and I must say it's one of the best performing tokens I've had. I got hold of some 3 years ago, and it's now up 15x on where I bought it. So you can see these gains if you get in early on tokens. And really, if you're just looking at the cream of the crop within a particular blockchain, give them time, and they will. They are likely to, to grow in value and be a useful addition to your portfolio. So I want to get hold of some WMT. I can actually do it directly from this marketplace platform. But there are a couple of different ways that it's using to do it. It's not actually built the technology that does the token swaps. There's an underlying platform tool here that is the Dex Hunter, which is a decentralized exchange aggregator. So if you're familiar with buying tokens from PancakeSwap or from centralized exchanges like Kraken, you can do the same thing, but in a decentralized way. And a DEX, so from a centralized exchange to a decentralized exchange, and our DEX Hunter is a decentralized exchange aggregator. So it will collect the best prices, the best availability of token swaps from multiple different decentralized exchanges and present them to you in one user interface. Because again, we're looking at decentralized infrastructure as an open public database that anybody can read from, and that means that an aggregator can look at the swaps that are available from any individual provider and bring them into their user interface. So really, you're looking at a user interface only that's actually talking to multiple different exchanges. And so this Dex Hunter, and the interface here is a little bit confusing in TapTool, so I'm going to jump over to Dex Hunter native. And so here you've got much more familiar, simple swapping interface where you can trade your ADA for the token of your choice. So we're going to look at WMT. So what I would typically do is I'd buy some ADA on Kraken, and then I'd send it from Kraken into my decentralized wallet, and then I'd attach my wallet, connect my wallet to Dex Hunter, and that will let me see the contents of my wallet, the ADA that I've got in there, and I can trade it for these other tokens that I'm interested in. Let's go for a simple swap interface, and you can make it really, really straightforward. I switch the user interface into basic, and then we can say I had 100 ADA in my wallet, which is $41.60. That will give me 203 WMT tokens. And if I actually connect my wallet, let's just see what I've got in here. So I have an Eternal wallet. And again, it's popped up my signing credential. And this user interface is very important to get familiar with. And you can sort of increase your knowledge of it over time. It shows you what you're signing. So when you have a wallet, you're actually agreeing to do things, to make changes to it whenever you sign something. So if you have a pop-up from your wallet provider, in this case, Eternal, read these screens carefully, make sure you're doing the right thing. So here it's saying, I'm going to allow Dex Hunter application, decentralized application, to read the balance of my wallet and prompt me to sign transactions. So it can't sign transactions itself. It can only prompt me to sign them. And I'm happy with that at this stage. So then we can see at the top right, it's shown me the balance of ADA in that wallet. I've got 28 ADA in there available for swapping. And so I could just say maximum ADA, and it'll pull down that figure from my wallet and show me I can swap 28 ADA and get 57 WMT tokens. And then if I was going to carry out that swap, that would prompt me up my Eternal signing transaction window again. And then it's describing what swap's going to actually happen. So I'm going to actually, even though I'm using the Dex Hunter application, because it's an aggregator, it's pulling in a swap that's available on SundaeSwap, which is another decentralized exchange on Cardano. And I'm going to be sending 31 ADA out of my wallet. 0.22 of that ADA is going to go to the blockchain itself as a fee for transacting on the blockchain. And then down here, you've got really accurate, really full-on descriptions of what's happening within this transaction. But the important things to get familiar with if you're using Eternal Wallet is what's got a negative sign on it, because that's leaving your wallet and that's what you're going to agree to, and how much is it, and is it just that one token? So that's the thing to learn and get your head around. And then if I did want to carry out the swap, I would sign it with my spending passphrase, and then I'd be the proud owner of 57 WMT tokens. So as an example, that was just popping up the transaction to carry out on SundaeSwap. If I pop up the details, I can see this full trade would be happening on SundaeSwap, which is this ice cream sundae image. But there's also got swaps that it could carry out on Splash and on MinSwap. On MinSwap version 1, there's 2 different protocols of MinSwap. Min2 just launched about 3 weeks ago. AxoTrade, Wingriders, Spectrum, and Genius Yield. And all of these are really mature teams that have been building on Cardano for a couple of years and have great products. And all the swaps that they have on their platforms can be aggregated into this one platform. Do stop me at any point, Luca, if you have any questions or see any in the chat. I'm not looking at the chat as well. Or anything you want me to dive into. So
no, maybe Jonathan, you can explain like the difference between like a tool like this, so exchanging on chain and on a centralized exchanges, and how maybe we can be on the other side of it, because of being you exchange against a liquidity pool. How can we part of the liquidity pool rather than buying and selling? So enable other people to buy and sell.
Absolutely. So that's the bit that I find most exciting. So you've just experienced buying and selling tokens on an exchange. So this was using an aggregator, and in the background it was using SundaeSwap, which is this platform. Which again, I can just quickly connect. And so on SundaeSwap, you've got the same sort of features. You can carry out exchanges. You can swap tokens one for the other. But again, this is developed by a different development house from the guys who wrote Dex Hunter. But again, they're all using the same underlying database of Cardano. Now, because anybody and everybody can create a user interface, can create some smart contracts that will allow you to swap tokens. There are incentives for people using one protocol over another, by allowing those individuals who do write smart contracts to put on the blockchain to claim portions of the fees for themselves. So SundaeSwap have written smart contracts that will take a portion, charge you a portion of the swapping fees, that's slightly different to the ones that MinSwap, who's another smart contract writer on Cardano, might have written. And so there's a slightly different fee between those two entities, but depending on the price action and which platform which price those smart contracts have picked up, that can still even out the difference and make one platform better than the other for carrying out a swap. But again, if you're just buying and selling, you're really operating as a retailer in a marketplace. If you actually want to become the marketplace, which is what Iluka was hinting at, then you can actually put your funds into taking some of those fees that I was mentioning that the platforms have for yourself. So if you want to become a liquidity provider on SundaeSwap, then you will start to earn some of the fees that SundaeSwap have put into their smart contracts to claim for themselves. Because a liquidity provider is someone who has a chunk of tokens. They also have a chunk of, like in the most basic sense, a chunk of another set of tokens, and they put an equal pairing of those onto an exchange, so that anybody then who comes to do a swap on an exchange or on a DEX aggregator will have some of your tokens in the pool that they use to swap from one to another. So if we look at the liquidity on SundaeSwap, we can see that there's lots of these token pairs. So here there's ADA and USDM. We've got ADA and Sunday tokens, ADA and BTN, butane, and there's ADA and WMT. And because this is the Cardano blockchain, everything tends to have a base of ADA in their pairing, but it's not exclusive to that. And then a second token which you want to swap to or from. So I've just theoretically bought some WMT, 51 WMT. So I could take that and pair it with the 31 ADA that I also have, not in that wallet anymore, but I could take that as a pair, put it into a SundaeSwap contract. So I'm sending now ADA and WMT out of my wallet, out of my control, into a smart contract on the blockchain that was written by SundaeSwap. And then depending on the setup of that pool, I can see I can earn the fees that liquidity provision takes. So anytime somebody comes in and buys WMT through a SundaeSwap contract, I will get a portion of the fees, because I'm providing liquidity in that pool. And that can actually turn out to be quite a lucrative endeavor, if you get the right pool. So we can see here that we've got V1 and V3. So SundaeSwap have got two contract versions up and running at the moment, version 1 and version 3. Version 3 obviously is the latest and greatest. That was out about a month, 6 weeks ago. And so that's where all the liquidity is being moved from version 1 of the protocol into version 3. And just for WMT, I can see that over the past HRA period, which is a calculation that looks at the last 24 hours, see how much was traded in that token pair. It'll give me an estimate of, or an accurate, presentation of how much APR fees you would have bought if you were a liquidity provider in that pool. So if I'd taken those ADA and WMT in and put it into that pool, if I'd put in $50 worth, then I would have earned 19.12% APR on that $50 over the past 24 hours. So every 24 hours, that HRA figure, historical returns annualized, it was like an APR figure for the last 24 hours. And that will change and morph over time as more liquidity comes in or more swaps and trades are happening on that, to give you an idea of how much you could earn in the future. It's showing you exactly what's happened in the last 24 hours. And so 19% return on your holdings is far better than any bank that I'm aware of, and is available to you without risking your capital to a large extent. Now, this is where some knowledge comes in, some due diligence comes in. If you are looking at these and seeing some really exciting APR figures like ADA USDM 57%, which actually is on this page so far, that's the one that I would go for. But you can get, can I sort by HRA? Yeah, so that's the highest at the moment on Sunday Swap, 57%. So that's 57% APR by providing liquidity in ADA and a USDM pairing. Now, USDM is a stable coin on Cardano. It's a 100% fiat-backed stable coin. It's been built by a community project. So I'm giving you a brief summary of the due diligence on this project now. They have been in technical discussion rooms with me and the Gimbal Labs team, asking questions, looking at their code, trying to get the head around concepts within Cardano over the past couple of years. They've built out their smart contracts. They've had them audited by third-party auditors. They've put those contracts on chain, and they're now accruing liquidity of that USD token into their smart contracts. They've got their setup in such a way that every dollar of USDM that's minted has got $1 in a bank, and that is under US regulation. So they've got certified regulatory compliance with the US banking industry. They've got a DAO set up based in Wyoming. And they've got a third-party provider, Charlie3, looking at the volume of funds, fiat dollars in their bank account, and verifying that that matches exactly how many dollars are on chain. So you know that you can always redeem your $1 of Sunday USDM for $1 of fiat money. So that gives you some assurance that it's a stable coin that's being well looked after. So this is very similar to Circle or Tether, except that it's got an extra layer of transparency on how much reserves they're actually holding in their bank account. So a really, really nice setup, and I hope they grow their liquidity really well. At the moment, they're at $5.9 million worth of liquidity. So it's not huge amounts in terms of, like Circle and Tether have got billions of dollars of their stable coins. USDM has been out 3 months, 4 months. So they've got $5.9 million, which is still not bad liquidity for the age of it, in my opinion. But they're growing over time. They're very transparent, and they are full-on DeFi fanatics. They're really keen on decentralized finance working. One of the founders has come from the traditional finance sector, knows its flaws, and has created this as a fixing all the flaws that he's seen. So you could take your ADA, which you already decided you like the Cardano blockchain. You've heard Luca and me talk about its qualities for the past 3 years. So you may be confident in getting some ADA. I've just told you about USDM. You may be confident in getting some USDM. And if you take that pairing of the tokens that you hold now, stick it into a Sunday Swap contract, then you can receive a yield of 57% APR. And this is a fact for the last 24 hours. That will go up and down in the next 24 hours. But that's a really, really good rate of return for holding a top 10 cryptocurrency in ADA and a fiat-backed stablecoin. 57% APR. Is that anybody upset about that as a return for their holdings?
Jonathan, maybe it's worth telling people that they haven't done this before. That, as you said, you already mentioned it, that rate changes on a daily basis. So sometimes when you see the rates, they are like 200, 300% for a new token, is because there's very little liquidity that's been added on. As people then want that rate and start putting liquidity on that percentage goes sharply down. So 57% is today. Tomorrow, if there are people that put in money in, can come down and maybe in a month's time could be, it could be 60%, it could be 20%. So if you kind of like play this game, you need to keep a sharp eye on this, generally speaking. But that 57% is equivalent to 0.15% daily, which is not bad at all. Where a lot of us in the UK have got that sort of interest yearly
Yearly.
bank deposits. This is like every day, so 0.15% is not a bad rate of return. It might not last too long, but on the short term, it's a decent return. And for those that are interested, I would encourage you also to look at, go onto Google and plug in impermanent loss, because that is that's another concept that you need to be aware of when you do this, because you deposit in two tokens, and what you take out is not necessarily the same amount when you finish and you want the money back. You may take different percentages of the two token back, which may be better or worse than what you put in at the beginning. So be aware of this, and and understand impermanent loss if this is something that you want to do. We got a couple of minutes left, so if you want to, or things of maybe mention a few of the things that we could talk about in the future, because we're quite happy to do, another session like this, maybe next month. And there are so many things that we can talk about now, especially with the, if you want to talk about governance, which is a big thing for Cardano now. Maybe identity as well, we could come into it. So different things that you can do on the blockchain. This is first and original. I would say the DeFi is probably one of the biggest drivers over the past 2 or 3 years, not just in Cardano, but in a lot of other blockchains. But there are so many other things now that they are coming to the blockchain that we can investigate.
Absolutely. Yeah, and really this is the sort of the honey that you should see in there as something to attract you in. But actually, once you're in, then there's a whole load of mature, grown-up stuff that you can talk about in Cardano that isn't all shiny, but it's hard work, but is actually about changing the state of the global financial system, and even the way that we run our affairs in government. So that, like Luca was saying, the impermanent loss is an important thing to get your head around, because what you'll do is if now I've picked a stable coin based pairing because that has low risk of impermanent loss. The worst case scenario is that ADA price drops, and so you sell some of your USDM to buy more ADA, and so you end up with more ADA at the end of it than you do USD dollars. But really, if you're confident in the blockchain itself and you're glad to hold ADA, then getting more ADA is not a bad thing. So that's that's why a stablecoin pair can be a really good thing to get started with, and that's an incredible rate of return. Probably because it's a recently new pool, and yeah, like Luca says, it will go down over the next few months. Like I started one in MinSwap, which is another exchange, and that had I demoed it a couple of weeks ago, and that was offering 35% APR, and that was pairing two stable coins, so one IUSD versus USDM, and yeah, that's how you can avoid impermanent loss altogether, because you've got two stable coins. You're coming out at the end of it with something you can swap for $1. But that's dropped now to 5%. But I'm still getting 5.5% APR on holding dollars and dollars, which is better than the bank account by far in any bank. Yeah. So yeah, that's the honey to attract you in. Some of the big wider things that are happening in Cardano, it's a particularly exciting time at the moment. It's because Cardano, I was talking about decentralization again, is because Cardano is the most decentralized blockchain in terms of its end goal. At the moment, it's winning in lots of different decentralization metrics. In terms of, it's got 3,000 stake pool operators who are responsible for validating transactions on the network. It's not as many as Bitcoin miners, and there's far more of those, but it's more than Ethereum and the other blockchains, more than Solana. It's also got planned to be the most decentralized governance. And this is the era we're in at the moment. So Bitcoin, all the decisions around changes to the blockchain are done by a small few. And same with Ethereum, and you've got the Ethereum Foundation controlling that. And with Cardano, we've got at the moment 3 entities: IOG, who create the technology, Emergo, who sort of run the business relationships and development side of things, those 2, and then Cardano Foundation, which manages a non-profit treasury that Cardano produces. And they hold the keys, so they can ultimately control what changes happen to the blockchain. In the era we're in at the moment, we are moving from them holding those power keys in their hands into handing it over to community groups. There's a constitutional committee who will have keys. There is Intersect members-based organizations, Pragma as well, and they will hold Intersect will hold keys for making changes to the blockchain, and then the stake pool operators all have a say in what changes to the blockchain. Then also we have delegated representatives, which are when anybody who holds ADA can put themselves up as a representative and say, I want to be responsible for making changes to the blockchain. And then if they attract followers, so anybody and everybody can say that guy knows what he's talking about. I like what he says about governance and democracy, so I'm going to give my ADA voting power to him when it comes to making changes to the blockchain, and that then individual then has some say over it. And so we've gone from having just 3 entities controlling these Genesis keys, as they're called, into them being controlled by thousands of individuals and organizations and bodies and governance bodies. And that's happening at the moment. And last night was announced that the technology for that has been signed off on by IOG. It's reached the final stage of debugging, auditing, checking, and they've put that node version up, which is 9.1 of the node, available for download by all the stake pool operators, then install into the blockchain itself. So I'm doing testing on version 9.1 at the moment. I've got it building, compiling as we speak. And then if I'm happy with it performing as it's designed, then I will deploy that to the blockchain itself, and we'll have another one of those 3,000 nodes running version 9.1 of the node. Once 75% of the node operators, those stake pool operators out there, have switched to 9.1 of the blockchain, then that will automatically trigger a hard fork. And in hard forks on Cardano are very simple and straightforward. They're automated, and that means that the blockchain will then switch from using the version of the protocol that was not ready for governance decisions to be distributed to being 9.1, which will allow anybody and everybody to take part in governance. And then when that happens, when we hit that 75% threshold, will become the most decentralized blockchain in terms of infrastructure and governance, which is a really great milestone. So I'm very excited about that.
Okay, on that note, Jonathan, I think you'll leave everybody with like some food for thought, and just think about, do your little bit of research and go and have a look how this is handled across other blockchains. And that will open your eyes a little bit on why there is so much interest in Cardano. Although they say the interest and price are not necessarily connected, but when you think about the things that will be done on the blockchain, this sort of technology will be essential by the time blockchain grows and actually does things that connect governments with services, with people, and so on. Anyway, so we come to the end of this session. If you like this, please, write some comments and some likes on YouTube, and we'll do another session, as I said, on some different subjects next month, if Jonathan is okay to do it. And for now, I remind you that we have the IIW session that starts in 10 minutes, the one on long-term wealth and investing. So feel free to join that with your questions. Today, in particular, we're going to focus, for the first 10 minutes on bonds and what they are and what they're used for. And then, as usual, the session will be open to your questions, or we go in any direction that you need at the moment to help you in your decisions. Okay, so and as usual, Jonathan will do also his session, starting shortly too. So feel free to post the link, Jonathan. And for everybody, we will see you next week. And have a great weekend, and see you soon. Okay, I'll just give you a few seconds so that Jonathan can post the link. So if you want it, then just click on the link straight away right now, because I'm going to end this session in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.